Today's video is part of a new series I'm working on where we do a deep dive of a specific country, and today's country we're going to look at is Latvia. So before we get too far, I want to make a couple of caveats here. I am not from Latvia. I'm not an expert on Latvia. I just enjoy collecting world coins from every country. And I also wish I had every coin from Latvia, but I don't. Part of me wants to wait to make this video until I get more coins from Latvia, but I could be waiting forever until I get enough coins, so instead we're just going to roll with what I have. Before we look at any specific coin, let's just give a very quick overview of Latvia. It's one of the European Baltic countries that used to be made up part of the Soviet Union. So Russia does border it to the east, but the other Baltic states of Estonia borders it to the north, and Lithuania borders it to the south. It is on the Baltic Sea, but to the west of the sea, we have the country of Sweden. Latvia didn't become its own country until the aftermath of World War I, somewhere around 1918. And it stayed independent until the aftermath of World War II. It got lumped back into the Soviet Union. And then following the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, it became independent again. And when we look at these coins, we've got three different eras of coins from Latvia. All of the loose coins on the left are from what's called the interwar period of Latvia between World War I and World War II. Then the middle column is going to be the post-Russia or post-Soviet Union era of Latvian coins. And then on the right, they did join the euro and start using the euro coin in 2014. Almost all of the coins from Latvia are going to have a form of their coat of arms on it, and there are a couple of different versions of the coat of arms, and so we're going to describe it. This is considered the lesser or the smaller coat of arms because there's just less on it. So let's talk about what's here. And most of this coin is made up of what kind of looks like a shield. The top half of the shield has a half of a sun, or I guess it's called a demi-sun, which is rising, so it's a half sun. This represents the statehood of Latvia and their independence and hope. Then when we look at the bottom half of this shield portion, we have a left and a right. On the left, we have a rampant lion. Now, on the colorized version of the coat of arms, the lion itself would be red, and the silver in the background would be kind of a white to silver color. The rampant lion represents the regions, the geographical region of Courland and Semigalia. On the right, we have a griffin, which is kind of like a lion but has wings on it. The lion is also holding a sword. And so this represents a couple of different regions. This one is, the colors are reversed on this one. So you would have a silver-colored griffin on a red background. But there are two different regions represented by the griffin. We have Vidzera and Latgala. Atop the shield, we have three stars, and so this represents the three regions that make up Latvia, and we've already gone over them. One of the stars is Courland and Semigalia put together, and then a star for Vidzera and Latgala. Other coins from Latvia are going to have what's called the greater coat of arms. So it's everything that we've just looked at, the shield with the three stars above it, but it adds some additional elements to it. And I guess the most prominent elements are the lion that's on the shield is a supporter on the left, like it's holding up the shield. And then the griffin on the right of the shield is a supporter on the right, as if it's also holding up the shield. So those get essentially duplicated on here. Below all of that is an oak branch, which represents strength and endurance. And then also across the bottom is a ribbon, which represents the flag of Latvia. Now, this is not colorized, but you don't see any color in just a solid ribbon on here. But in the The colorized coat of arms, the ribbon on here does represent the flag, and the flag of Latvia is dark red at the top, dark red at the bottom, and a thinner white stripe that runs horizontally through the middle. And so that is, the ribbon on here would look like that flag. Now we'll jump into the coins from interwar Latvia. So we have the lesser coat of arms plus a ribbon with the word Latvia on it. Their smallest coin was a 1 centimes. And this is essentially based on the French centimes, where you have 100 of these, which makes their currency of a lati. The 1 centimes, this is catalog KM1, so this is the first coin that Latvia ever made. And they made these from 1922 to 1935. They were made at a couple different mints. They started off in the Huguenin mint in Switzerland, but by the time this coin was made in 1928, they had also used the King's Norton mint. For a brief while, they also used the Heaton and Sons mint. Catalog number KM2 is the 2 centimi, which is very similar, just a little bit larger. This one was also made in 1922 and was made up until 1932. So for a brief time, in 1937 and 1939, there was a new version of both the 1 and the 2 that had a little bit of differences. They added some wheat that made kind of a semicircle that went around the top, around either side of the number 2. The word centimi was written across the bottom, kind of curved along the bottom. And then as we go over to this side, they had modified it where instead of having Latvia written on a ribbon that goes across the bottom, it was they put oak and more oak branches along the bottom, and then the name moved to the top. And so that would be an example of coins that I wish I could show you, but I don't have, so I was just going to mention it right here. The 5 centini is going to be very similar to the 1 centimes and the 2 centini, except one of the differences, this one was only made in 1922, and some of these next coins were only made at the very beginning. The Krause catalog makes a note about we essentially have a mint mark right here where it mentions the Huguenin mint, and you won't see that on other versions of the coin, and so the catalog calls that a mint error where they didn't put their own mint mark on their own coin. And then as we flip it over to this side, we also see Huguenin written here. And I think I had it wrong, what was written on the other side. This one would have been the engraver's name, written in very small letters on this side. So your catalog will point out the 1, the 2, and the 5 on some years are missing the mint mark and the engraver's name on here. But on the online communities, people are saying that's not true. It's just they get so well worn that you don't see it anymore. This is also going to be the last of the bronze coins, and as we get to larger denominations, we'll have a different metal. That last coin is KM3. This one is KM4. And you can see we've moved to coins made out of nickel. But we still have the lesser coat of arms on this side. But when we get to this side, we add some wheat onto the coin. And also now the denomination is called 10 centimu. So in the Latvian language, they have 3 different, I guess you'd call them cases for their numbers. So if it's a singular, meaning there's just one, it's the singular nominative case, so it's centimes. But when it's between 2 and 9, it's called the plural nominative, and it ends in I. That's why we had centimi. And then when you're 10 or more, it is the plural nominative, which gives us centimu, ends in the letter U. Catalog number KM5, we have the 20 centimu, and it's essentially similar in every way, just larger than the 10. You may have noticed that their spelling of Latvia is different than our spelling of Latvia because they have the J that runs across the banner. And so they would pronounce the J like in English we might have Y. So it's kind of like they're pronouncing that last syllable as a ya, J-A, so Latvia. So I did want to point that out. This coin was also only made in 1922. KM6 is going to be the 50 centimou, and we get an even larger coin than the last one. But this one has a lot different to it than the previous ones. We actually have a more of a design to look at on this one. So sadly, this is the coin that's probably the most well worn out of all of these, but again, it was only made in 1922. But here we have a man who is standing on a boat. He is holding a wooden tiller, and the tiller is the part of the boat that controls the rudder. And to the right of him, you can barely see the edge of a sail, for this being a sailboat. So this, the symbolism that we have on this coin represents, well, first of all, Latvia's importance with the maritime commerce. And not just that the man is on a boat, but specifically he is steering the boat. And so that goes with the Latvian concept of steering their own course. And so they're trying to become their own country, not what Russia had them be, but they're charting their own new course going forward. And then the sail on here represents the forward momentum that the country is hoping to achieve. Now we're getting into the silver coins, and their currency is called the lats. So 1 would be a lats, 2 would be lati, and then if you had 10 or more, it would be latu. I don't have the 1, but I do have the 2, lati, and they're essentially very similar, just the 2 is twice the weight of the number 1. It's made out of silver, it's 0.835 silver. This specific coin has a silver weight of 0.2684 ounces. Has the number 2 within a wreath. The 1 lat was made from 1923 and 24. This 2 lati was made in 1925 and 1926, so they made these different years. Also, there are some different versions. If you count the number of the reading on here, the number of corrugated sections, there are some variations where you get different numbers that are all similar to each other, and I just don't have the attention span to try and count. Let me pause where I'm at for a moment and say it is now Brent from the future, and when I had originally recorded this video, I did not have the 1 Latvian coin which I felt was the single most iconic Latvian coin ever, easily the most iconic coin. And with another coin show coming up, I set out to find it. The first dealer who had it, I went through all my go-to world coin dealers, the first guy had it in brilliant uncirculated condition for $150, and I didn't want to pay that. So I found this one at not quite as good condition, but it was $60, and I think it's well worth it. This one, at the time, was really close to spot price. Now, silver has come down since this time, but this coin's going to be number KM9. We're going to see a design that is very similar to some of the other coins that we've seen. This one is going to have 5 times the silver of the 1 lats coin. This one is the 5 lati. So this one's going to be 25 grams and going to have a silver weight in ounces of 0.671. And as I get a little bit closer here, if we look at the ribbon at the very bottom, you can see how the end of the ribbon is frayed. And I went back and checked on the 2 lati, it was not like that. This coin was dated in 1931. It was made in 29, 31, and 32. A total of 3.6 million of these were made. 2 million of those were made in 1931. So this one is the most common year. And as we flip it over, as I said, this is the most iconic coin from Latvia. When Latvia was taken over by the Soviet Union, this became a symbol of independence. And then in more modern times, later in the video, I point out how this is the design of the modern 1 and 2 euro Latvian coin, but it also appeared on some pre-euro silver commemorative coins, and even this design appeared on the 500 Latu banknote. The lady here is often referred to as a maiden, and colloquially she's given the name of Milda. That is a common Latvian female name. This coin was designed by Rihards Žāriņš, and the model that he used for this coin was a proofreader there in the office. The lady who posed to be on this coin was Zelma Brauera. And Miss Brauera was also appeared on the 50 centimo coin that we looked at a moment ago. When I first recorded the coin, I said it was a man steering the boat, but if you go back and look, you can actually see how there is a ponytail that appears on that video. So it was a woman steering the boat on the 50. And to get back to another earlier theme, we'll see some more wheat that appears on the shoulder right there. Latvia became controlled by the Soviets in 1940, and the Latvian citizens were told that you have to convert all of your Latu into rubles, or they would become worthless. And so in the next year or so, the Soviets had accumulated about 700,000 just of these coins. They kept them in storage for about 20 years until 1960, when they actually sold off a lot of these coins to the world numismatic market. And in turn, I had read that they had traded them in for other classic coins from the world, and kept them in their vaults. And that is a story I'd like to know a little bit more about. This coin also is going to have some edge lettering. There are two different versions of the edge lettering, depending on which side is up. If here we're looking at the face, so if we look at the words, everything's upside down. So this one is position B. Position A, you would look at the face, and the words would be right side up. But this one, we go back to this side and find the words right side up. So Latvia, Dievas, Zvedi. So this is their word for God. Bless Latvia. So God bless Latvia. Similar to how United States coins say or a lot of people will say God bless and then their own country. I'll make one more note before I get back to what I previously recorded. This is I'm using an AI-generated thumbnail for this video, and I thought of either using that or just this picture right here, and decided to try the AI one for a change. But I don't want people thinking that this is a bunch of AI slop that I'm putting on the internet, but we'll see how it goes. None of the actual content's going to be AI created, well, other than one little meme. So that's all of the interwar Latvia. Now we're going to look at coins from post-Soviet Union Latvia. We're going to start with the smallest coin. They're still called centimes, 1 centimes, centimi, and centimu. This one's dated 1997. It's the 1 centimes. And on the design here, of course, we have a large number 1. There's 5 arcs that go across the top, and the 2 diamonds on either side are supposed to represent suns. This coin was made from 1992 until 2008. They made them 6 different years at 5 different mints, and each mint had some very subtle differences if you want to get out and measure the spacing between certain things. But during this go-round, the 1 centimes and the 2 centimi are both made out of copper-plated steel. The 1 and the 2 look very similar, just, again, the 2 is bigger than the 1. But then we get into the 5, the 10, and the 20 that essentially look just like the 1 and the 2, but it's made out of a different metal. This is made out of nickel brass. But it's essentially the same design here on the 5. And then we also have the 20, which I don't have the 10, but I do have the 20. And again, it's essentially the same design. The next coin is the 50 centimu. And again, we have a little bit of a difference once we get to this one. This is a pine tree seedling, which represents Latvia's timber resources, which is important to their industry. This coin is made out of copper nickel. Catalog KM13. And then the next coin is the 1 lats. This one's dated 2007. This one features a salmon. As it's jumping out of the water, it's leaving a big slash, and so you see the line of water on here and some splash that it's making. This one represents the Latvia's water resources. Also made out of copper nickel. So of the regular circulating coins from during this era, they also had a 2 lati coin, which featured a cow. It was also copper nickel, and it was a larger coin. And the copper nickel version was made in 1992, but then they made a bimetallic version of it from 1999 to 2009. That's something else that I'm not able to show you. And this video is only going to go over the circulating coins from Latvia. We're not going to touch on any of the non-circulating silver commemorative coins, but between 2001 until they moved to the euro, there were a lot of different one-year circulating commemorative coins. And I went through and looked at them all. Some of them are kind of interesting. I wish I could have them, but for instance, in 2001, they had a stork. 2003, they had an ant. In 2004, they had a mushroom. 2005, they featured a rooster, and another coin that featured a pretzel. I find that interesting. 2006, they had a pine cone. In 2008, they had a water lily. And then in future years, they had a chimney sweep, a jewelry ring, a toad. They had 2 different versions of a horseshoe, one facing up and one facing down. They had a gingerbread shaped like a heart. They had a hedgehog. They had a Christmas tree, and they had silver bells. So those were several different forms of circulating commemorative coins. But the last circulating 1 lats coin they had led up to them joining the euro. So in 2013, they made a coin that had the value of the coin in lats and in euro as it was getting people prepared for the conversion. Latvia actually had a very strong currency that was stronger than the euro. And so on the coin, it had a large number 1 on it. On the left, it said lats. And then on the right, it had a 0.42 euro. So the lat was stronger than the euro. 1 lat did equal 1.42 euros. So I believe that was actually called the euro parity coin. So with the euro cents, the 1, the 2, and the 5 are the copper-plated steel coins. And in Latvia, they're all essentially exactly the same. They have the lesser coat of arms on the coin, along with the date on the right. This one's dated 2014, and you'll find that almost all of the circulating euro coins are going to be dated 2014. Almost always. There's a couple of exceptions to that, but most of the time, if you find another year, it was part of a mint set. And then we get to the 10, the 20, and the 50. These are the three coins that have this brass-like look. They technically call it Nordic gold. It's not actually gold. That's just the name of the color or the metal that they use for it. And so since they made these after they had the redesign of the map, so it shows all of Europe all together instead of all the countries disjointed on this side. We flip this one over, and we're back to the greater coat of arms. So it's the one that has the lion and the griffin acting as supporters, and the oak branch and the ribbon. Although on this ribbon you can actually see how there's different colors. There's lines that run down the ribbon representing the colors of the Latvian flag. And then this design is surrounded by the 12 stars, which represent the European Union. So the 10, the 20, and the 50 all look the same. And then we get to the bimetallic €1 and €2. Again, I don't have any of these, but it also features the same design of the other coin I really wish I could show you earlier. It's the same look as the interwar 5 laddie coin with the folk maiden head looking to the right. So the design of the modern €1 and €2 coin is taken from the 5 laddie that was made before they were part of the Soviet Union. So those would be really neat to find because of how it references one of their earlier prominent coins. So that's all I have from Latvia. I hope you enjoyed this. Is there another country that you would like for me to do a deep dive on? Then let me know in the comments. I'm usually going to base it on if I make a large purchase of a specific country off of eBay. But there are other countries that I've been meaning to make specific videos of just that country for a long time. So let me know what you'd like to see. Did I get any facts about Latvia wrong in this country? Let me know in the comments, and so that way we can correct everybody that I'm not having too much misinformation out there. Otherwise, I will catch you in the next video, and until then, bye.